What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Floyd Street's Finest, a Louisville men's basketball podcast, part of the Field of 68 Media Network. I'm your host, your friend, Jeff Greer. We've got a great episode for you today. Sam Williamson joins the pod for our first chance to talk. Actually, I just realized this the other day when we first scheduled this. I have not had a chance to talk to Sam since he was a high school recruit coming in about a month before he had arrived on campus to be actually a college freshman at that point at Louisville. So it's been a little while. Obviously, his first season, kind of getting his feet wet in the college game. Second season came alive in the second half. He had some good games in the first half of the season, but really broke out in the second half of the season, averaging almost a double-double down the stretch for Louisville in the final couple games, and was a critical piece for the Cardinals and is going to be an even more critical piece this coming season. There's been a lot of buzz so far I'm looking at my math here, about 6 weeks or so of workouts and team practices and activities together. There's been so much conversation about both Sam Williamson and Jalen Withers as the two guys who have really stood out so far in workouts. As I included in my newsletter, which you can find jeffgreer.substack.com. You can subscribe for either the month or a yearly subscription if you would like, or you can just get the free emails and just get a taste of what the subscribers get to see every week. Whatever is cool with me, but I mentioned also in there that Mike James has been touted as a guy who's playing really well in this summer session so far. We will get to the Sam Williamson interview here in a few minutes. Before we do that, a couple things. One is obviously since the last time we recorded this podcast, a couple things have happened with Louisville basketball, including the addition of Sydney Curry and the brief dalliance with Marcus Carr. So let's start with the Marcus Carr stuff. Obviously, I've been vocal and have written about it, talked about it. I do think Louisville could use another playmaking guard on its roster. It seems like late in the game here now for Louisville to maybe go after another type guard like a Marcus Carr, who is a lead guard, a creative player. And there's, again, a reason why Marcus Carr was the most sought-after guard in the entire offseason in the transfer portal. He's a really, really good player, was an all Big Ten guard. And that Louisville was in that conversation was interesting. And I really thought Louisville had as good of a reason to try to go after him as any of the teams mentioned in that conversation. As of this recording, he has not committed anywhere yet. It was supposed to be either Texas or playing professionally overseas. Texas was always the favorite if he was going to go to college. So it's no surprise that Texas is the place that kind of has all the college side juice in all of this. So we'll see how things go with his recruitment going forward. But a chance to really make a game changer of an addition for Louisville. And look, I think as long as it was the position that it was, where Louisville was kind of not considered the favorite to get him, it was going to be an uphill battle. They're going to have to try to get him on campus and convince him to switch maybe his favorites. And that's always tough to do, especially late in the game. But there's no question he would have helped. Without him, Louisville still has a solid backcourt foundation. The question just is going to be, can some of the guys who we don't quite know about how they're going to fit in at Louisville, can they rest that sort of role and win it and be that guy, whether it's El Ellis, Jared West, Noah Locke? They're going to obviously share a lot of the duties throughout the season, but instead of going to add an all Big Ten performer who has been one of the best guards, or was one of the best guards in the country this past season, Louisville has some questions to ask, I guess, or questions to answer, I should say, about its backcourt. And we know that Jared West is a solid player. He's a really good player. He's a good defender, dogged defender, good in the pick and roll, good shooter, really good passer of the ball. So he's got a chance to really take the reins as being a big-time distributor for Louisville. And then Ellis, of course, the number one junior college prospect in the country coming to Louisville. This is a chance for him to assert himself this coming season and really be a big-time playmaking guard for Louisville. There's a lot on their shoulders, so we'll see how things progress there. Sydney Curry, look, I think Louisville is always going to be in this position this offseason where they've got a center in Malik Williams, who, if healthy, is the starting center. He's your main guy. And as Chris Mack has said in the past, and others, and Mike Piggy said it on our podcast earlier this year, Malik Williams is an all ACC defensive, an ACC defensive player of the year caliber defender. Really, really, really good defender, knows how they want to defend, knows how to direct other guys in traffic from his spot at center, and also has significantly improved as an interior scorer over the progression of his career. So he will give them that option when he is fully healthy and ready to play. As of this recording here in mid-July, he has not been running full 5v5 stuff with Louisville. He and Roosevelt Wheeler, the top 60 freshman who is coming in off of hurting his Achilles and having surgery on it back in October. He is also not playing 5-on-5. And I think even though both of those guys, as Mike Pegues has said and Chris Mack has said in recent weeks, they are ahead of schedule. Wheeler apparently came in really great shape and is further along than they thought he would be in this process of getting back to being at full health. I think it just tells you, look, Louisville is not is determined to not experience a season similar to last season, in which case there were times where they were having to shift. And I talk about this with Samuell Williamson today, where they had to have guys kind of playing out of position in a few places and kind of mixing and matching and stretching players to be able to have a team that could be competitive. By adding Sidney Curry, you eliminate some of that concern. You don't have to stretch guys. You don't have to play them in positions they're not entirely suited for in a system where they want to have guys playing obviously where they feel like they fit best. So in this situation, it allows Jalen Withers and it allows JJ Traynor to focus on playing the stretch 4 position in this system and focus on that. And it doesn't also force, if there were injuries, God forbid, to Williams and Wheeler down the line, it takes a little bit of the pressure off of a guy like Gabe Wisnitzer, who would have to be more of an emergency option. And it eliminates, at least reduces, I should say, the potential of having to play Traynor and Withers together and then have a smaller lineup across the floor, or just not have as much depth behind them. If one of those two guys were to then get in foul trouble, you would have to play smaller. So more than anything else, and I do think that lineup could be effective too. Don't get me wrong, especially in this newly implemented system. But the point is largely that it just gives you a little more depth and a little bit more lineup versatility. Maybe those guys still do play together chunks of minutes as 2 stretch 4s basically occupying the floor. And maybe one of them slides to the 5 and they play 2 of their small forwards together at times. Who knows at this point, but that's what the summer is all about. And I think adding someone like Sidney Curry at least gives you a little bit more versatility, a little bit more physicality to your group, and gives you a chance to kind of have some different options in case, God forbid, again, anything were to go wrong for anybody else. So that's just sort of the Cliff's Notes version of my thoughts on that. We could talk about that for a long time, but I don't want to delay any further my conversation with Samuell Williamson, who is a rising junior for Louisville and primed for what should be a big year as one of the focal points of the offense. And before we go, just a quick reminder, though, make sure you hit up the YouTube page for Field of 68, subscribe there, and tell your friends about this podcast. Like and review it if you haven't already. It helps a lot for the algorithm on iTunes or the podcast center, whatever you want to call it, for Apple and Spotify and all those different places. If you leave reviews and ratings, it helps more people find it. And we want more people to listen because we enjoy talking to all these different people and trying to provide some insight into the program. So enjoy my conversation with Sam Williamson. All right. We are joined by Sam Williamson. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm pretty good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. As I was just saying before we came on, Sam was very expertly acting in the Louisville men's basketball, softball promo. I got to ask you first and foremost, we've got plenty of basketball stuff to talk about, but just real quick, where did that kind of originate, that idea, and how did that come up, and why were you interested in doing it?
Honestly, our video guy, Troy Beckman, came up to me and he showed me one of these old LeBron commercials where he's swimming in a pool and there's an old LeBron sitting poolside, another LeBron jumping off the diving board. And it was like a minute-long commercial, and he showed me that. And he was like, "Once you do this commercial," and I was like, "All right, I'm cool with it." And yeah, that was really it.
Well, you executed it very well. It was very well done. And sometimes those can flop, those types of attempts at videos. And I thought it hit pretty nicely.
Yeah, he did good.
Yeah. So we got a few different things to talk about. I want to first ask you about the team, and then we'll get into some of your individual stuff. What was your, I guess first, let's see, it's July 16th when we're recording this. So maybe 6 weeks, you've seen some of the new guys. What have your impressions been of your new teammates so far?
I mean, I've had, great impressions of all my teammates. I think really everybody, all the newcomers, all the returners, we've all made, huge leaps in the last 6 weeks. It took a couple guys, a couple weeks to kind of get going, getting in the rhythm of things, but we're starting to, gel well together on the court, off the court, and I'm excited to see everybody's progress.
There's been so much talk about this new offense, this system that's being implemented. I know there's going to be elements that are going to remain from what you already used the last couple of years that you've been at Louisville, but Ross obviously coming in is changing the mindset a little bit. Take us through how things have been different these first 6 weeks that you're trying to learn this new system.
I think it's been completely different. Honestly, I think it's been a complete 180. Everybody's just all eyes and ears at this point, trying to learn this new offense. I mean, everybody loves it. It's free flowing. It's fast tempo. It's a lot less predictable than our offense a year ago. And yeah, like Coach Ross is doing a great job of putting in this new offense. Like I said, I mean, we're all ears, trying to learn and kind of grasp the concept and try to get better every day.
I thought it was interesting. We had a chance to talk to Matt Cross. I know he's just arrived and only been adjusting for a week or however long it's been, but I thought it was interesting that he said he didn't quite realize how much this way of playing would benefit him even more than he maybe thought initially, and how many open looks he's getting in transition. What's been the impact, do you think, on your game in the way that this has changed?
I think it's just allowed me to play more free. It's interchangeable, so it's not like I'm playing the three and I can only do this. So 1 through 4 is basically interchangeable. I can do what the point guard does. The point guard can do what I do. I can come off ball screens and pin downs, as well as all the other perimeter players. So it's just, like I said, it's a lot less predictable, and it just allows for myself to kind of just get in the rhythm of the offense a little bit more, just because it's a lot more options within the offense.
There's from New Zealand and also like Melbourne United and all these different places where Ross is coached. It's one of the running jokes is that the terminology, he's really good at coming up with these little terms to help people remember things. Have you picked up on any? I know dominoes has been commonly used now. It's kind of become widespread in all of basketball, but Ross is credited with creating that term. I heard Matt drop a couple in his press conference the other day. Well, run us through some of these terms that you guys are picking up. How much have you added to your repertoire so far?
Really a lot. And to be honest with you, a lot of these new terms are, completely new to me. The first week we got here, he gave us like a sheet, like front and back of all these different terms that, like I said, most of them I never heard of, but some of the important ones that we talk about a lot, like you said, dominoes, getting 2 guys to guard 1 person. Bolts is a huge thing that we're gonna calculate a lot this year. I think we're gonna get 30 bolts a game, which is basically just full sprints down the court. I mean, like I said, it's a lot of different stuff that Ross is bringing, a lot of different new terms and stuff like that.
It seems like it's fun. Like it does, like that part, because I've listened to his, and not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I did listen to his. He was interviewed a couple of times over the past few years, and the New Zealand national team would play this 5-on-5 drill that was named after something from Harry Potter. And it seems like it's a good way to kind of make things fun while you're still trying to learn a lot of information. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, man, all the guys are loving it at all positions. The point guards are loving the offense. The wings, the bigs. Everybody's happy with the offense. So we're excited to get this thing going and keep getting better. And hopefully by the time November comes around, we have this offense, down pat and we're ready to go.
Now, one guy I wanted to ask you about before we get into your stuff is Jalen, because everyone's been talking about you and him this offseason and the strides you've made, the work you've put in. What have you seen from Jalen? I know you came in together, so you've had a chance to really, truly watch his evolution since he arrived on campus. How's he looking this summer and what's gotten better?
Jalen's looking great. He's kind of back in his natural position, playing more on the perimeter. So that's allowed him to just kind of play more his game. Last year he was in a tough position. A lot of us were in tough positions because we had to play, positions that we weren't used to playing due to injuries and stuff like that. But that's just part of the game. But just kind of him being back on the perimeter, him being able to shoot, that three that he's really good at shooting, put the ball on the floor, drive by guys. Jalen's looking really good this summer.
Because when I watched him in AAU, like he would bring the ball up sometimes. So he would get a defensive rebound and he would turn and he would run up the floor. He would run things. He would attack off the dribble. And I know it was more out of necessity for him to have to play the five this past season, but like, that he can play out there and be creative and be a playmaker in that role for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in this year, if Jalen gets a rebound, he's allowed to push it. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just like we got to get the rebound, pass the point guard every time. Whoever gets the rebound can push and look to advance, just to kind of help us play a little bit faster.
So let's talk about you. First and foremost, what I know a big part of the offseason is working on your body and feeling like you're going to be fitting in with whatever the coaching staff is looking for from you in the next season. So what specific goals do you have this summer that you're working on, and how's that progress gone so far?
It's going pretty good. I've had a couple of, nagging injuries. It's kind of made me have to kind of be careful with how I work out, like not doing too much overloading. But it's going pretty good. I'm not really trying to gain as much weight as I was like my freshman year. My freshman year, I had to put on like 20 pounds. I think if I can put on, 4 or 5 more pounds this summer, I'll be good. I feel really strong, so I'm not too worried about that. And then I kind of switched up my shot a little bit this offseason. Coach Mack and Taylor Barnett recommended me shoot more of a set shot. And at first I was kind of hesitant about it, and I tried it out, kind of watched some film on some guys, Paul George shoots a set shot, Joe Ingles, Eric Gordon, guys of that nature. And I kind of tried it a little bit, and it felt natural from the jump. Normally when you make changes to your jump shot, it feels weird or goofy at first, but it felt pretty natural. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I'm working on, this summer, is just getting more reps, shooting this more of a set shot.
What are some of the mechanical differences between what we're used to seeing you do with your jump shot and a set shot? What's the biggest difference?
I mean, this might sound funny because normally guys are like more legs, but it's basically just more arms and less legs. You still got to be down low on the catch and everything, but it's mostly not jumping as much on shot and then using more arms.
Okay. Interesting. That was something I was going to ask you about, because this was obviously going to be, as you look at each individual player. Like I know David Johnson had to try to work on his jump shot last summer to try to get ready for this coming season. Obviously did much better with it as a sophomore. And that has been, I always thought it was interesting. I remember talking to Evan Daniels about this when you were a McDonald's All-American, you're a 5-star prospect, and you were doing a lot of the things that people see you do, especially the second half of this season, rebounding out of your area, scoring around the basket. The mid-range is really good. But I remember Evan saying there's belief that he can be a good 3-point shooter if he can try to maintain his mechanics from his mid-range out to distance. And you had some success the first season. Last year obviously didn't go probably as much as you would like it to go, as well as you would like it to go.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this change might be able to help you with shooting a little bit more consistently from 3?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason why I'm making the change. Me personally, I'm a gym rat. I have to be in the gym to not only maintain my rhythm, but not only to gain rhythm and get better, but just to maintain my rhythm. And last year, honestly, I mean, it hurt me a lot. You know, the gym was closed all the time. We couldn't come before practice. We couldn't come after practice. It was just practice, basically. Couldn't, you know, our fingerprint didn't work. We couldn't come up here and get shots up at night. And I feel like that hurt me and a lot of the other guys. I feel like it hurt as well. I mean, we didn't shoot the ball well enough. I think we was 14th or 15th in the conference in three-point percentage. Outside of Dave and Carleek, you know, everybody that was around them, we were shooting 25, 22, 21, and 23, I believe, from three, and that's just not gonna get the job done. So, you know, I think, you know, that's the biggest thing for me is getting some more reps with this new set shot. You know, all these other guys, you know, that DeAndre knows he's got to shoot the ball better from three. You know, he's been in there every day. You know, Jalen's been there every day, just working on that.
When you talk about the change in mechanics, I mean, it's not like you're a 7-year-old who's just learning how to play basketball. You've been playing basketball, especially at a high level, getting lots of reps for a long time now. Was it how awkward did it feel at first to have to make some of those changes and think about trying something so different from what your body is just programmed to do?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I was a little bit hesitant at first because it really is a drastic change. But when I first started, I got on the gun one day and I just started shooting this little set shot. And like I said, it felt natural, you know, from the jump. It felt pretty good. And I feel like that was a good sign. And the first time I tried it, I shot pretty well. And, you know, I told Coach Mack, I was like, all right, I'm going to try this for 2 weeks. I'm gonna fully commit to it. Because I was going back and forth at first, kind of shooting my regular shot and then set shot. And I told Coach Mack when I was back home in Dallas, I'm gonna commit to the set shot for 2 weeks, see how it feels, and then make a decision from there. And then so I did 2 weeks. All my workouts, my shooting sessions was, you know, just set shots. And then I decided to, you know, keep that change.
Interesting. Okay. Along those same lines, something that I thought really stood out, and I know Mac talked about this in press conferences whenever you were brought up, was as the season progressed, the off-ball movement and something that I know you were really good at in high school really started to show where you were cutting into good spots to be able to get easier baskets. You're moving around to get yourself in good position to get that mid-range jumper that you're so good at. Where is that in your game? Like, how do you study cutting and knowing when to pick your spots? I know space is so important in this new offensive system. How can you connect that skill set that you already have with what you're trying to learn with this new system?
I think it's more of like a feel, you know, having a feel for the game. Like you said, spacing is extremely important in any offense. But I think that's something I've always been pretty good at, you know, having kind of awareness of when to cut, you know, when to get open, setting my man up and coming off a screen and things of that nature. But like I said, I feel like it's more of, you know, having a feel for the game. And I feel like my basketball IQ is one of my strengths. So that's something I can be pretty good at.
What do you think, what changed or what started going right, I guess? What do you feel like started, maybe not just going right, but going really well for you in the second half of the season? Because your numbers, as you know, I mean, your numbers took off with rebounding, especially your scoring. It seemed like you were a lot more comfortable in the second half of the season, a lot more confident. So what changed or what started clicking a little bit better for you, do you think, in February and March?
I think I realized how effective I could be rebounding the ball on both ends. You know, like I said, I mean, it's no secret. The offense wasn't, you know, fantastic last year. And at times, you know, it could be frustrating. I realized, you know, if I want to get a touch on this possession, I got to go get the offensive rebound. And I just kind of developed that mentality of, you know, getting on the glass. You know, I was playing mostly the four. So, you know, me and Jalen kind of had to hold it down a little bit on the glass. And I feel like, you know, just getting to the rim a little bit more. Like I said, getting on that glass, I feel like it just kind of became a mentality.
Take me through the Georgia Tech game. That was kind of like, okay, Sam is doing his thing a little bit. Do you remember coming into it? Were you feeling like this was going to be a big game for you? What was that experience like back in early February?
Honestly, I wasn't feeling very well before the game. Like I was feeling kind of sick, like not COVID-like, excuse me, but I was feeling kind of sick. But yeah, like kind of the first few minutes of the game, got a couple of rebounds, and I think getting rebounds is kind of like scoring. Like once you kind of get a few, like you kind of in a rhythm. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was like a magnet on my hands. The ball was just kind of coming to me. You know, I was just I think I hit a three. My mid-range was falling. They ran the zone, so I was just kind of chilling in the middle of the zone. Hit a couple catch and shoots in the middle of the zone, and just being aggressive on both ends.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the coming out party type games for you, for sure. Last couple things. One is, look, I mean, you guys have made it obvious. I'm sure you've talked even more about this behind the scenes and certainly still feel it from missing the tournament. But the episode 1 of the documentary series is all about the selection show and the disappointment from it. Mm-hmm. Does it feel like, okay, this season, this is like, everybody is feeling this, not pressure, but more an internal desire to just completely eliminate any hope or any concern that is going to be a storyline this year, that missing the tournament is even a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't say pressure at all. I mean, we all came here to win. I wanted to go to school. I feel like I can compete to win a national championship. And I feel like we can do that this year. I honestly feel like we do it last year and the year before. That's just how, confident I am in my teammates and myself. But we're all locked in, man. Like yesterday, I was sitting there watching the 2013 championship game, just getting chills the whole time. Like I don't want to play on that stage, just talking to some of my guys, like talking with Jared. Like before Jared got up here, he was texting me every week, like, man, I just want to win. And I'm like, man, I'm on the same time. Like, I want to win national championship so bad. Like I said, that's why we all came here, and that's always a plan, and that's what we're working for all summer.
It's interesting you were watching that championship game. How did you come across that game? Why did you decide to watch it yesterday?
I was just scrolling through YouTube, and I was like, let me watch this game real quick. I've watched it a few times. And then Spike was our GA last year, and he went off in that game, so it's cool seeing him.
He shot his shot at Kate Upton famously after that.
Really?
Yeah, it was very entertaining Twitter content. So what stuck out to you about that game then? When you have watched it, like what, aside from the stage and obviously Louisville winning a national title, like what stuck out to you from watching those guys play?
I would just say like the passion that they played with. And they had some guys, man. Like Trez was coming off the bench, Gorgie Jang, like they had some dudes. And it's the way they played so well together. They said Russ Smith was averaging like 25 points per game going into the championship game, and he didn't have the best game in the championship. And the other guys, Luke Hancock stepped up, and it was just cool to see. Like I remember watching that game when I was a 12-year-old kid, and just being here at Louisville now is crazy. I want to play on that stage.
So last thing then is something I've wanted to ask you for a while. I remember it from talking to you from your recruiting days when you first were coming in. Everybody has a close relationship with their mom, but I feel like you and your mom are super tight, even to the next level. Like the lady has so much respect from everyone around the program, anyone who knows her. How has that, and I know this is kind of a swerve from basketball talk, but how has that relationship kind of grounded you and kept you, kept you going through all these years? Because it does seem like that is such a big part of your background and who you are today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My mom is everything to me. She's my rock. She supported me over and over again. Growing up, she supported all my dreams. Whether it's basketball or non-basketball, she's always supported me, been there for me. And like I always tell people, I got my work ethic from her. You know what I'm saying? Seeing her work 2-3 jobs growing up, I just kind of want to get her, out of the situation that she's in. She's been through a lot. And like I said, I get my work ethic from her. Like she's the hardest working person I've ever met in my life. And I feel like I bring some of that energy that she's kind of showed me, and I bring it into basketball.
Yeah. You've probably heard the same, but there have been so many people who say like Sam's mom is an absolute warrior. Like she is, she is tough as nails. She's a warrior.
Some of the stuff like media doesn't even know about, but the last few years, man, she's been through a lot. She was in and obviously she went through cancer and everything early in my high school career. Mm-hmm. She totaled her car last year in a head-on collision, was in the hospital for a while during the season, my freshman year. And then that summer, she got caught in the crossfire of an attempted mass shooting in downtown Dallas between this dude came in there with the AR and rounds and ammos and knives and everything and started shooting at the bank. And then she had to like duck down and the security was shooting and she was just caught in the crossfire, man. So mean, my mom's she's everything to me, man, and she means the world to me.
Yeah, for good reason. I appreciate that. I'm sure she will too. Well, Sam Williamson, thank you so much for your time, my friend, and keep up the good work here in the off season, and we'll see you down the line.
Sir Jeff, thanks for having me.